Hello everyone, my name is Zach and I'm going to be the teacher today. You can call me teacher or Zach. Today we're going to be learning about the practice of assisted suicide, what's otherwise known as euthanasia. And we're going to be reading an article about this in which we'll learn some new vocabulary, and we're going to then discuss the idea of euthanasia and maybe have a small debate about whether we think it's a good or a bad thing. My screen seems to have frozen. Hopefully it will unfreeze soon, I hope. There we go, that's better. Great, so we're just waiting for more students to join. We have some premium subscribers at the moment. Jose, how are you?
Hello, how are you? Fine.
Good. I'm fine too, thank you. Where are you from, Jose?
I'm from Spain.
Spain, okay. I like the fluffy toys in behind you. I don't know if you know that, but you have SpongeBob SquarePants behind you, Jose.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
What? Sorry?
I said you have SpongeBob SquarePants behind you. If you look behind you.
Yes. Ah, yes, I have toys of my son.
Yes, there you go. SpongeBob SquarePants. Cool. And then we have Murat. Where are you from, Murat?
Yes, I am from Turkey.
Turkey. Cool.
Yeah.
Welcome to the class.
Thank you.
And Alberto. Alberto, your microphone's not working at the moment. I can't hear you. Can't hear anything. You have to change some. Oh.
Now? Now it's okay?
Yeah, very good, yes.
Okay,
Now,
sorry.
no problem. Alberto, could you do me a favor and put some headphones in?
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna look for...
Thank you very much. Okay. We have a full class. But I can hear myself. I'm gonna mute Alberto for a moment. There we go. Okay, guys. Nice to see everyone and some familiar faces. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about euthanasia. We're going to learn a few words first, and then we're going to read an article which contains the new words we've learned, and then we're going to have a discussion on the topic of euthanasia. Let me just type this in quickly. 1 second. Okay, that's how you spell euthanasia. So, if we can all open the article, which should be with the... let me see if I can find it and post a link. But there should have been an article uploaded with the lesson plan. Hold on. If everyone can try to locate that, and I'm going to locate it myself and post a link in the chat. Okay, I have it, in case no one else does. Okay, so if everyone can please... Inga, I apologize. Inga's asking me in the chat room why I picked such a stressful topic to talk about on a Saturday morning. It is morning for me, but I'm assuming that other people are at other times of the day. But it is a Saturday, so maybe I shouldn't have picked such a stressful topic. But it'll be good because it'll it'll stretch you a little bit and force you to, when you're talking about a serious topic, you have to concentrate, or else you may say something bad, or so that you don't mean, or whatever. So that's good for your English, I think. Okay, good. So let's look at the lesson. Everyone has this open now, this link that I posted, I hope?
Yes.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes.
we're going to start off looking at some new vocabulary. Okay. I'm not going to ask you for all of these because some of them are quite simple. But the harder words here, we're going to try and match to the definitions on the right. Okay, so you see there's words on the left and definitions on the right. And if I ask you about the word, then I want you to look at the definitions and give me the right one. Okay, so I'll give you 10 to 20 seconds to look at the definitions right now, so you could get familiar with the definitions on the right side. Okay? So have a look now at these definitions. Okay, I'm going to now ask somebody to tell me what they think degenerative means. Degenerative. I'm going to ask Hazel. Nice to see you. I'm glad you could make it.
Hello, Zach.
How are you?
Degenerative.
Yes.
Having an illness that will lead to death,
No.
or causing gradual weakness.
Yes, they're very similar, right?
Yes.
Yes, but
B.
you're correct. B.
So B. Causing
Yes.
gradual weakness or loss of use.
Absolutely. Degenerative means to cause gradual weakness. So a degenerative disease is one in which you get weaker and weaker and weaker as it progresses. Okay, very good. Life sentence. Laura, can you tell us what life sentence is?
No, I see now I can't choose.
Sorry?
I look now to this meaning, but I can't choose so quickly.
Oh, I see. But do you have the lesson? Because you can take your time. It's all right. Are you looking at the definitions, Laura?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Take your time.
It's easy, I think, life sentence, but I can't choose.
You want to have a guess?
Maybe K, the state of being worthy, or a sense of honor.
No, that's not it. Do you want to try again?
No.
No? Okay. That's the spirit. That's all right. I'll ask Frank, can you tell us what a life sentence is?
Okay, I'll try.
Yes.
I would say diagnosis that means you are going to die.
No.
Yes, that's correct. Used in law to refer to capital punishment. So, yes, in one context, which is the law, it refers to capital punishment. Well, that's not actually true. No, that's not true. In the
Is D? Isn't D?
That's what will lead to death. Yes, life sentence. No, it is. Sorry, let me just check. This is a confusing one. Sorry, I should have checked this before. I think it is I, but I think it's also wrong. Yeah, it's I, but it's not correct. It says used in law to refer to capital punishment. That's not true. In law, if you have a life sentence, this means you will go to jail or you will go to prison for a long, long time. It used to mean for the rest of your life, right? A sentence is your punishment. This is your punishment. If it's a life sentence, normally you would go for the rest of your life. Now it varies from country to country. In some countries, it's 15 years. Some countries, it's 25 years. So in America, for example, you can have 2 life sentences, and that means you go to jail for something like 50 years. But here, a diagnosis that means you are going to die. Okay, that's what it is. A diagnosis that means you're going to die with euthanasia. Okay. Assisted suicide, I'll tell you now, that's the same as euthanasia. It's helping someone to kill themselves. Terminally ill. Let me ask someone what terminally ill means. Alberto, can you tell us?
Yeah, terminally ill. It's having an illness that will lead to death.
Yes, having an illness that will lead to death. If you have a terminal illness, this means an illness that will lead to death. The word terminal usually means the end of something, okay? So if you think of an airport, in Heathrow Airport, for example, in London, you have many terminals, terminal 1, 2, 3, 4. This is because the terminal is the end of the journey. There was a famous movie with Tom Hanks called The Terminal. I don't know if anybody saw it, but in this case, it means the end of life. So the terminal illness or terminally ill means you're going to die. Foreigner, I think we all know. Qualify, I'm going to leave. Conductor, might as well do that. Conductor. Max, can you tell us what a conductor is?
Conduct.
A conductor, number 7.
A conductor.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me think. 1 second, please.
No problem.
To go with, no. Maybe a requirement or indication related to a formal law.
No. If a word ends in O,
taking one's own life.
no. No, that's not it. Max, if a word ends in ER or OR, often it refers to a type of person or a type of job. Usually ER, but in this case OR. So think of it like that way, like a driver, for example.
Conduct is mean to ask somebody, and somebody is the any topic or any something about it.
No, it's someone who's doing something. It's a job to be a conductor.
Okay.
So what job do you think it is? I'll give you a clue.
A job.
Yeah, but this is the clue. This is the clue.
Maybe. Maybe a person who leads an orchestra.
Yes, very good. Good job. Yes, it's a person who leads an orchestra. It's also someone on a bus, for example. You can have a bus conductor. He's the person who takes your ticket on a bus. But normally it's a person who leads an orchestra, okay? The word, conduct usually means to behave, but that's a separate meaning. Okay, to diagnose, number 8. Ahmed, can you tell us diagnose?
Yes, of course. Diagnose is to determine what illness one has.
Excellent, very good. So if you are diagnosed with something, you are told by the doctor, this is your illness. This is your illness. I'm going to ask another word now, to prognosis. What's a prognosis? Does anyone know?
To approximate?
Not too far. It's not a verb. I think the verb is to prognosticate, but we don't use the word. We do not use the verb very much. Much more commonly, we will use the noun, a prognosis, which is related to diagnosis. I'll write it down just so you can see.
Prediction, medical prediction.
Prognosis.
Diagnosis is C. A requirement or indication related to a formal law.
We can't hear you.
Zach, we cannot hear you.
Okay, hold on a second. You'll be able to hear me in a second.
Now we hear you.
Now, yeah, I'm very, very sorry. It's something to do with my browser. This happens every week. I'm gonna start doing my classes in a different browser. Anyway, yeah, Hazel, you're right. It's a medical prediction. A prognosis is when a doctor will predict what happens. So I go to the doctor and he tells me, for example, something terrible. He tells me that I have cancer, and then I say to him, what is my prognosis? What is my prognosis? And he will tell me, you are likely to get better, or you are likely to get worse. So the diagnosis is you have cancer, or you have a cold, or you have a rash, or whatever. The prognosis is what is likely to happen based on this diagnosis. Okay? So that's a good word. Okay, dignity, number 11. We're going to skip pressure, because I'm assuming we know what that means. Jose, do you know what dignity means? Jose, can you hear me?
Sorry, yes, one moment. Dignity, I think, is Q, the state of being worthy, a sense of honor.
A sense of honor. Yep, that's correct. A state of being worthy, a sense of honor. And 12, a company. Let me ask Murat, can you tell us what a company means?
The company, big.
Sorry?
Sorry.
Take a guess.
A company.
Mm-hmm. Not a company like Apple or Nike. Not that kind of company. That's 2 words.
A company.
Do you want to take a guess what the definition is?
Something like
No,
follow.
No, I can't.
Okay, Biljana, will you get a guess?
I think that is something like follow, keep track of, something like that.
Not too far from the truth, but there is these definitions on the right. You should be looking on the list on the right. It's from the list on the right.
May I would say to go with someone or something.
Yes, that's correct. Frank and Hazel are right. It's A, to go with someone, to join them, to accompany somebody. Okay? If I accompany my friend to the hospital, then I am joining them to go to the hospital, so they will not be alone. Okay? Accompany can mean you can use in many different ways. Usually in England, you will have a vinegar will accompany fish and chips. If you have fish and chips, vinegar will accompany it, which means it comes together. So an accompaniment is something that goes together with something else, an accompaniment. Okay? And the way you can think about this is it's the same expression. I'm not going to use the chat, I'm afraid, because it's really misbehaving until I figured it out. But to keep someone company means to make sure someone is not alone, to keep someone company. Okay? Just make sure you know this is not the same meaning as a business. It has nothing to do with that. Okay? To keep someone company or to keep good company, this means togetherness, to be with people. Okay? Thank you, Inga, for doing that. Okay, good. So now we've learned these new words. Let's read an article and we'll put them into practice. Please make sure you are paying attention to the content of the article, because we will be debating it and asking questions about it when we have finished. It's not very long, but please make sure you're paying attention. Okay? So let's do the first paragraph. I'm going to ask if Laura, can you read the first paragraph to us, please?
Okay.
And not too quickly.
Okay. As I write to die. In April of 2013, a Canadian woman said goodbye to her friends and family and flew to Switzerland to die. The 72-year-old woman had been suffering from a degenerative disease. Susan Griffiths felt her terminal illness was a life sentence. Before she went to Zurich to die, Griffiths asked the Canadian government to change the laws about doctor-assisted suicide. Like many other terminally ill patients, Griffiths would have preferred to die at home.
Very good. Okay, so the word, very excellent pronunciation, Laura. The word though is suicide. Suicide, not suicide. Yeah, suicide.
It's suicide in Russian. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. All right. So the next paragraph now. Let's ask Ahmed. Can you please read the second paragraph to us?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Why do the terminally ill people often go to Switzerland and lives? There is an organization there that provides assisted suicide to foreigners. You don't even have to be terminally ill to qualify for assisted suicide at this clinic. An English conductor proved this in 2009. Sir Edward Thomas Downes was almost blind and deaf, and he relied heavily on his wife to care for him. When his wife was diagnosed with terminal cancer, he decided to go with her to the clinic in Switzerland so they could die together.
Okay. I'm not sure if anyone else heard, but there was a bit of a connection issue there, Ahmed, but I think we generally heard you. So that was a very sort of moving story about the conductor, but we'll come on to that. Hazel, can you please read the next paragraph for us?
Yes. Some family members go with their dying loved ones to say their final goodbyes at the clinic. Others worry that they will face legal charges just by traveling with them. Doctors are concerned about legalities too. Many don't want assisted suicide to be legal. They fear that if assisted suicide is legalized, disabled or elderly people may be pressured to end their lives easily.
Excellent. Thank you, Hazel. And if Amal can read the last one.
Okay. Is that four?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is dying with dignity a human right? Jackie McCook, a British citizen.
Hold on. Amal, read the first sentence again. I didn't quite hear.
Is dying with dignity a human right?
Dignity,
a human right. Jackie McCook, a British British citizen who suffered terribly from pain, reminded her daughter that people often put pets out of their misery. If I were a dog, you would put me down. Why can't I have that dignity? Miko's daughters agreed with her mother and accompanied her to Switzerland.
Okay, good. Accompanied her to Switzerland. Yeah. Okay, good. Very good. Good job, guys. So now some comprehension. Why did Susan Griffiths go to Switzerland at the age of 72? Max. Max, can you hear that?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So why did Susan Griffiths go to Switzerland at 72?
Oh, some woman suffering from some disease. That's why Susan need to go there for take care of her. And you know that woman relative of Susan, and she wants to take care of her because of her illness.
But it's a lot simpler than that though, Max. Just give me like one sentence of why did she go to Switzerland to die? It's in the first paragraph.
According to the paragraph, that woman suffering from a degenerative disease.
Okay, but why did she not stay in her own country to die?
Because of the Canadian government changed the laws about the doctor assistance, and
no, they didn't. They
decided that law, and that was against the law.
It was against the law, exactly. It was against the law in her own country.
And that's why he preferred to die in another country.
Yes, so she could do it legally. There you go. Well done. Okay. So actually, we answered that question in not question 2. We just answered. So why did Sir Edward Thomas Downes decide to go ahead with assisted suicide, even though he wasn't dying? Alberto, can you answer that one?
Yeah, that's because he was deaf and blind, and usually his wife take care of him. And his wife had a cancer, and she didn't take care of him, so he decided to suicide, both of them.
Assisted suicide. Yeah, because his wife was given a diagnosis of terminal cancer. So she was not going to be able to look after him, and so they went together. And I actually read about this at the time, and it was quite peaceful, and they were at peace with their decision together, and their children were at peace with it. It was a big news story at the time, but that's why he went. He was a very accomplished musical figure. Why are some people afraid to go with their loved ones to the clinic in Switzerland?
Because it's difficult to say goodbye to person who you love.
That's true.
And they are worried about legal charges.
And that's true. That's more true. Yes, they're a little bit worried about the legal charges, but just because they travel with them. So it's like being an accessory. There's an expression to be an accessory to murder, which means if you did not murder someone, but your actions were a big reason of why they became murdered, why they were murdered by someone, right? You are then an accessory to murder, and you can still be charged and go to jail and these things. So if the person is dead, nothing can happen to them, but if you go with them and then you go back to your country, it could be dangerous for you, legally speaking. Why are many doctors concerned about legalizing assisted suicide?
Because they are worried that old people or disabled people might be pressured by their families to kill themselves.
Yes. Many doctors, this is one of the arguments against euthanasia, is that if we legalize euthanasia in every country, then it's called a slippery slope argument, and we can talk about this in a moment. But slippery slope means it starts off okay, like we're just doing it for people who have terminally ill diagnoses. But then if we make it legal, we might, oh, okay, well, maybe we should, this person is disabled, so he can't contribute much to society, so maybe we should help him to kill himself, or we should put pressure on this person because they're not doing much. And then it will get worse and worse and worse. And eventually, you know, some people who are really against euthanasia compare it to like what the Nazis did in World War II to, you know, the Jewish population, for example. I think that's crazy, but there are some people that think that kind of thing. So doctors are concerned, it's not quite that far, but doctors are concerned that people would put pressure on family members if it became legal. So it's actually important that it stays illegal in their countries. Why does the reading mention a pet? Murat, can you tell us this?
Yes, he thinks if he were a dog, he would put me down. He can't. He thinks he hasn't dignity as much as dog.
I
Yes.
think different.
Go ahead.
Maybe because it's legal, all that for animals.
Yes, that's correct. That's more correct. Yes. if well, Murat, say give me your explanation again. It sounded to me like it was the same, more or less the same. But go ahead.
Maybe he were a dog. It has a dignity. It has a.
Yeah, it says he's basically comparing humans to animals and saying, look,
yes,
if an animal is suffering greatly, then we will put it down. The expression to put down an animal means assisted suicide, to help an animal to die.
Yes.
And this is, you know, we're allowing them to not have to suffer in their life and to stay, you know, because they attach their importance or self-worth to how much they can be active and part of society or whatever. So why can I not have the same right that a dog has? It's not really to do with legality, Biljana, but the idea is if I were a dog, you would do this to me. So what's the difference? Obviously, humans and animals are different, but if we're going to extend this this benefit, it's a benefit, this person thinks, to an animal, then of course we should extend it to a human being as well, right?
That is human right.
It's a human right, yes. She is saying it should be a human right if we do it to animals. The expression is a mercy killing, right? A mercy killing. If you see an insect, for example, on the ground that looks like it's suffering, and you know this insect's not going to survive, it's just going to be a horrible few hours until it dies, then actually maybe you are doing a favor to put it out of its misery. To put something out of its misery is like a euphemism. It's an expression to mean to kill it, basically, because otherwise it will suffer. Okay? And there's a little note on the side here about the subjunctive. Okay? The subjunctive mood. It expresses something imagined that could not be true, and you use were. Okay, so if I were a dog, which it's not possible, but if I were a dog, then you would do this to me. Okay, if I were President of the United States, then I would do this. So that's a good expression to be aware of. But this is not a grammar class, but that's a good grammar point. Okay, let's have a little bit of discussion now. We may come back to these vocabulary points at the end if we have time. I want to know what your thoughts are about euthanasia and have a little bit of a debate about this and see if everyone's against it or everyone's for it or what people tend to think. So Frank, what do you have any, and also if you have any personal experience, if you know someone who had assisted suicide or any kind of connection, then and you're willing to share it with us, then that would also be great. So Frank, what's your opinion about euthanasia? Do you think it should be legal? Do you think it's a bad thing? Do you think human life is too important and that humans should not be given the right to die?
Definitely, I think it should be legal, indeed, because I work with suffering people, and I can say that it must be a possible choice of the person. It must be up to us to decide if you want to have this big relief or not. And so I agree, absolutely.
Okay, so your main argument for the legalization of assisted suicide is humans should have the right to self-determination. This is the word. Self-determination. Can everyone see this? Everyone be quiet so I can see. You can see it. Self-determination.
Yeah.
This means or one. This is the same. This is the same as another word, which is autonomy. These are both excellent words to learn. Self-determination and autonomy. Autonomy, I'm going to keep speaking so you can see it. Autonomy. Yeah, if you have a notebook, you should write this down. I should have mentioned that you should all have a notebook at the beginning. I did not do a good introduction to the class. Both of these words mean to be responsible for yourself. Okay? You are in charge of you, nobody else. This is what autonomy and self-determination. And we can also talk about countries being autonomous or having self-determination. Often, you know, before one country belonged to another one, and then eventually it broke off and has its own power. So America, for example, used to be a British colony. We like to remind them about this a long time ago. But then eventually there was a revolution and they got rid of the British and America had its autonomy. America was in charge of itself. Okay? Sammy's saying the big countries determine what they want. Yes, I agree with you, Sammy, but that's a political point. So in this case, Frank is saying human beings should be the judge of what happens to them, no one else. And so therefore they should have the right. Also because of suffering, I think. You think suffering is obviously a very bad thing.
And psychically is very, very difficult to wait date of death. If you know when you die, date of die, it is difficult psychically.
Can you explain that a bit more, Biljana? You're saying the date of your death. It's difficult to know the date of your death, and therefore.
Yes, my godfather.
Yes.
He has cancer of bones, you know, and he suffer, and he knows he will die for 3 months.
Right.
Maximum 3 months, and it is difficult psychically to know that.
It's when you say difficult, you mean not possible or
no.
Psychologically difficult?
Psychologically.
Psychologically difficult. Okay, fine. So it's very difficult. If someone says to me, I'm going to die in 3 months or 6 months, then it's very, very hard. It just increases my suffering, right?
Yes.
And so it's nicer to have the control to be able to make the decision myself. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to throw a cat amongst the pigeons. I'm going to throw a cat amongst the pigeons. Does anyone know what that expression means?
No.
No? No one?
Can you repeat again?
I'm going to throw a cat.
A cat.
Amongst the pigeons. Throw a cat.
A provocation?
Yes. Excellent, Hazel. Yes. A provocation. So it means if you imagine there are pigeons, which are birds everywhere, and you throw a cat, then he will start chasing them and going crazy, and the pigeons will fly off everywhere. So that's where that expression comes from. I agree with what Frank and Biljana were saying. But what do we say if I say that maybe assisted suicide is not always in the best interests of the patient? What if, one, maybe the doctor gives a bad diagnosis, or two, maybe the patient goes in and out of depression and it, you know, they're up and down, and maybe when they're really depressed, that's when they say, I want this to happen. But if you prevented them, then maybe a few weeks later they would be feeling better again, for example. Maybe the doctor is not aware of all the possibilities for a cure, so ultimately maybe actually it's not in the person's best interest to do this, because there could be other factors that come into play. And what if you do help someone to commit suicide, and then you find out actually we could have cured them, or actually there was some better treatment that they could have had. This is called, the kind of treatment you receive when you are terminally ill is called palliative care. Palliative care. I'm going to put this, I'm going to write this down quickly using my old school method of pen and paper. But palliative care. And you receive this in what's called a hospice. A hospice. In a hospice. So this is like a hospital. It sounds like hospital, but actually a hospice is just an institution just for terminally ill patients, okay, where they receive palliative care, and the point of palliative care is to relieve your suffering. To relieve your suffering. They know you will die. They may know when, they may not know exactly, but the whole point is to make you feel better. So what do you think of, maybe this is, if it's not in a person's best interest, then maybe we're just, you know, we're killing people. It's almost a bit like murder, maybe. Does anyone have any opinions on that? Is that just completely wrong? Is the right to self-determination that Frank was talking about more important than this? So even if they make a mistake and they really were not thinking straight, then that was their decision and we have to let them make their decision. Is that what people think? Laura, do you have an opinion?
I can't judge people who does that, but I feel it's wrong. I can't explain. Maybe it's coming from religion's explanation.
Okay.
I think we shouldn't do that, but I understood that some people have very bad situation.
Yeah, I mean, because sometimes people, I know sometimes people commit acts that look like suicide, but they're not really. They're just a cry for help. The expression "a cry for help" means you do not really want to do something. You just want people to show their love and to show that you still matter and that you are still worth something. So what if my demand to do euthanasia was really just a cry for help, but other people could not see this? If we legalize it, then we make it even easier for people to do that. Does anyone, Alberto, do you have an opinion on that?
But
Yeah, sorry. No, I agree with assisted suicide, because I believe the dignity of everyone is before other matters. My opinion.
The what of everyone? Sorry.
The dignity. The dignity of everyone is before.
It's the most important. It's prior. Yeah. Okay.
A priority.
Priority. Exactly. Okay. That's fine. Does everyone agree with that? Does anyone here think that euthanasia is a bad idea?
Maybe somebody must determine the psychological state of the patient.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So that's a good counter argument. A counter argument is that actually there are lots of things that we you know, where there are risks already, but we regulate them and we are careful and we use, you know, good doctors and good institutions, and that's how we can make sure that we're making the right decisions in these cases. Okay, so is there anyone here who's very religious? Because often there are many religious arguments against euthanasia.
Yes, I am.
Okay, but and what do you think about it? Do you think is it okay by your religion, or?
It is not okay, but I have a different opinion about that.
Okay, so that's like a separate issue in your religion.
Sorry, I have a comment about dignity.
Yes.
I don't know this word is the right, whether it's right or not, I don't know. Is it equal meaning? Self-esteem and dignity.
Self-esteem and dignity are synonyms, yes.
Is
They're
it
synonyms.
equal meaning?
It's good enough for you to think that they equal meaning. Self-esteem is more like confidence. Self-esteem is more confidence, but it's closely related to dignity. Dignity is self-worth, to think you are worth something. So it's quite similar to confidence. You look in a dictionary, but they have very, very similar meanings. If you want, we can just quickly look at the definitions. I'm quite interested to know the exact difference, but I would. Self-esteem is a feeling of pride in yourself, a feeling of pride, and dignity is very similar, which is the state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect. So that's really the same as pride, the same thing. So you can use this.
In addition, I looked it up for. I don't talk about it. I looked it up and I saw that that there was a same meaning.
Yes, there you go. Okay, good. Hey, Hazel, do you what kind of opinion do you have about euthanasia? Do you think it's good, bad? Is there anything to be debated, or should it just be legalized in more countries? Because at the moment, actually, it's only legal in Switzerland, Netherlands, Holland, and Belgium. Most countries, it's still illegal. So, in Europe, anyway.
In my opinion, it is enough if the euthanasia is legal in only one or three countries, 1 or 2, 3 countries, because indeed I think it is a little dangerous to be legal in all the countries. As far as I am concerned, I wouldn't like my dear ones to kill themselves, or me to help them. But I respect people. I respect people who want to die in dignity, and if their opinion is that they want to die like that, I respect, and I don't have anything to object.
Okay. Okay, good. So you think it's good that it's available in 1 or 2 countries, so the option is there for people if they need it.
Yes.
But you would not obviously want some. So you bring up an interesting point, which is that we're talking about. Frank brought up the issue of rights, and I think he thinks everyone should have the right to do what they want with their body, and if they're suffering, they should have the right to end their life. But what about the rights of your friends and your family and the people that you love and that love you back? You know, Hazel was saying how tragic it would be for her if any of her relatives would choose this option. Does she not have a right, you know, if she has had a son or a daughter, to see them live and prosper? And does it not affect her rights, maybe, if they decide to take their own life?
Yes, but people should live with hope. And all the time scientists discover some new drugs, some new medicine, and maybe they will be able to cure their illnesses.
Yes, that's true as well. So you never know. It depends.
And when somebody natural die,
when someone dies of natural causes,
yes.
Yes,
when somebody die of natural causes, then we're sorry too. We don't want to happen that. Same like in this.
Yes, but it's the act of free will. It's the act of choice. That's the difference. If it's natural, then yes, we may have a right. So maybe God or some supernatural force encroached on these rights, but we don't know about this.
No, I think about family. Family is sorry for that person, you know. Always the family is sorry.
Yes. No, I know. So you're saying that's not an argument, but I'm saying in that case, nothing could be done to prevent it, right? Okay. But in the case we're discussing, we're talking about the person who, you know, the person who wants to be euthanized. They are actively doing something, but when it could be helped, maybe, you know, they could remain in palliative care, or they could seek out other options potentially. What about the idea of the slippery slope argument? The idea that if we allow this and we legalize euthanasia in every country, then what effect is that going to have on our perception of human life? If it's something that legally can be taken, right? It's similar to capital punishment, which has now been made illegal in many countries. But what does it say if you know, we can take a human life if it's not worth living? What happens? Maybe disabled people start to be looked at differently, and they're like, well, what, you know, you're not contributing much, or you're not doing this. So maybe people would start putting pressure on them because they still take up resources and they still, you know, eat and have needs and things like this. What does that say about our attitude towards human life then? Like if human life is supposed to be this really valuable, sacred thing, and I'm not saying sacred in a religious way, just, you know, valuable in and of itself, then what happens to the invalids, or the what's the word I'm looking for? People on the margins, on the edges of society. You know, maybe they start to think, oh, well, I have no self-worth, no one likes me, no one cares about me, and then they lose their hope because we have made this legal option that they can do. They know that they are allowed to do this, and they will not get anyone in trouble. Doctors will not get in trouble. It will be fine. Are we not worried? Does anyone not worry that might start to happen if we make euthanasia legal everywhere?
There must exist some rules.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think it needs to be better regulated? Like what kinds of rules, Biljana? Can you think of one?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know to explain in English.
Okay. So maybe my thought was that maybe you could have, you know, rules about certain illnesses, certain diagnosis, where it was known that there had been no cure for a very long time, and it was very unlikely that a cure would be found, that kind of thing.
If that is certainly die. If somebody, if his diagnosis, somebody will die.
Yes.
That's his rule.
Okay, so that's one example, right? You have to have the terminal diagnosis.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's good. And if we were to legalize it, then I think those kinds of regulations would be absolutely necessary in order for the slippery slope not to happen, I guess. Okay, let's ask. Jose, what's your opinion on this?
I don't agree with legalizing the euthanasia.
Ah, I asked earlier if anyone didn't agree, and you didn't say anything. So why do you not agree?
Because people have to fight with the life. I think it's very difficult to diagnosticate when one person is very, very bad.
Okay, but what if we can say 100%? We get 5 doctors and they all agree this person will die in 1 year and they will suffer terribly until then, and there is no question, and everyone agrees. Then you think that person should be made to suffer if it can be helped?
I think it's very dangerous. One doctor diagnostic that one person is very dangerous, I think.
It's very dangerous for one, you're saying for one doctor to make a diagnosis. You're saying it needs to be many doctors, for example.
Yes, and for the people it's very dangerous.
Okay, but I'm saying if we could get many doctors to agree, then you think then it's okay? Is it okay for you in any circumstances?
I don't know why, but I don't agree with that.
Okay, so you have an instinctive aversion to it.
I have a person in the hospital. The doctor say us if we don't do that.
Yeah. The problem is the gray areas. The gray areas. Okay, this is a great word. Gray areas. A gray area is when something is not obvious. It's not one thing, it's not the other. Jose says, I think he has somebody in hospital who's close to him, and maybe it's not very clear, you know. For example, people go into comas sometimes. A coma is when you are...
Yes.
Yeah. And it is not clear what's happening, and they are alive and they are showing signs of life, but they cannot speak. They are not with you, and you don't know if they can hear you, and this kind of thing. And a coma is a very gray area because it's not certain. There have been people who have stayed in comas and their family have decided to keep them alive for maybe, I think there was someone 20 years or something like this in England a few years ago, and then she came out of the coma. And she found her family again, and she integrated into society, and it was a very heartwarming, happy story. But you can equally think of examples of people who were in comas for 20 years, and their family thought maybe they were suffering, and they wouldn't want to do this. So it's a very gray area. It's not very clear-cut. And these, you know, obviously, if we were to legalize euthanasia, we would have to be very careful about what we said about these gray areas. Where we really don't know what the person is feeling or what the situation is, you know? This isn't really euthanasia as well, because if someone is in a coma, for example, they are not really choosing whether to live or die. But even so, there are still grey areas where they do have the choice, but they are not sure for themselves. Inga, before we finish, did you have an opinion about this? I wanted to give you a chance to speak.
Yes, I just want to say that we have in today's class we have some narrow opinion about euthanasia, because I think that in case if someone have no money to go to the doctor, it's the same euthanasia. If you are at home and you can do something to save your life, or you just want to go your life as predicted by God, yes, for example. And it's a more global problem, I think. So you know, there are passive and
1 second, guys, sorry. Go ahead, carry on.
There are passive and active types of euthanasia.
Yes.
So the active one is then you are going to doctor and say, doctor, please injure me the drug, yes, bad drug, which will help me to die.
Yes.
For example, today. And the other passive one is then you are going to doctor and say, okay, I have this disease.
Yes.
I ask you to, he wants you to do some medicine, to give you some medicine, but to say, no, I don't want medicine, and it's called passive one.
Yes. That's a very, very, very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I was supposed to mention that. There are two types of euthanasia. Active is when you're actually asking someone to assist you. Passive is if you ask a doctor to stop giving you medicine, or you know you are going to die, and you know it could be prevented, but you choose not to prevent it. And it's, again, it becomes very sort of complicated. That adds to the gray area aspect of it, because, you know, a lot of doctors feel comfortable with the idea of passive euthanasia, because then you're not giving someone an injection or you're not doing anything. You're almost letting nature run its course, we could say.
Yes, and also, yes, what about the Hippocratic,
Hippocratic Oath, Hippocratic Oath.
That doctors, yes, swear, or what's the word? Before they become a doctor, they give a Hippocratic.
It's called the Hippocratic Oath.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, I swear to protect people and to always try to. So, and euthanasia goes against this oath, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's an argument against it as well. So good. Okay. So it is a contentious issue. A contentious issue means an issue or controversial issue that there are lots of arguments surrounding it. I happen to be more of a proponent. A proponent is someone who agrees with something. I think euthanasia should be legalized, but as we were saying with Biljana, I think it should be heavily regulated, and it should be extremely well regulated, and people should be very careful about it. But yes, you made some very good points, Ingo, as to why you know, the different types of euthanasia and what doctors may accept and what they may not accept based on the oath that they took and that kind of thing. Guys, I have to run, unfortunately, because I got another lesson straight away. I'd love to see as many of you there as can come. We're going to be talking about genius, which is not such a heavy topic, and we'll be doing some listening as well, and watching a YouTube video together and seeing what we can understand from the YouTube video. It's going to be a pretty advanced lesson, I think. So if you're up for it and you want to learn some cool vocabulary and talk about genius, then I will see you in a few minutes as soon as I've closed this window and started the next lesson.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Thank you, bye.
No problem.
Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
Bye-bye.